Hello BookTube, hello friends, welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and in this video I'm actually going to do my wrap-up for August. The reason I say that, if you didn't see the video prior to this, I called it my unwrap-up because it started out, it was going to be my wrap-up, and I got started talking about what I didn't finish and what I didn't read and what I was going to do differently next month and all this stuff, and I rambled on for 15 minutes, and I had not even said the first thing about the books that I actually finished. So I decided to call that one my unwrap up, and this is my actual wrap up. So we can skip all of the other chatter and get right to the books. So for the month of August, I finished a total of 35 books. 28 of those were on audio, 7 of those were with my eyes, read them in print. I did not have any ebooks, so all of those were physical books. And the majority of the books I read in the month were romance because of the Summer Fling Readathon, hosted by Sarah from Steeped in Books. I should say created by Sarah and hosted and co-hosted by 11. I think there were 11 of us who were hosts and our co-hosts. And we had a fantastic time. We did some live stream videos, and several people who were hosts did some recommendations videos and things like that. It was a lot of fun, and I just had a great time. We also had a really fun challenge on Instagram called the Summer Fling Scavenger Hunt, and I need to go back now and just add up how many people participated in that, because it was so much fun every day to see all of the different book covers that people posted that matched the prompts. So thank you if any of you who did that challenge or at least viewed and liked any of those posts. Thank you for supporting that and for participating. It was really a lot of fun. So of this well, before I get to the Summer Fling and what I did for each challenge, let me go ahead and say now, 22 of the books I finished are what I would consider romance. Then 4 of them, not of those, 4 more I would consider just other fiction. They were adult books. A couple of them had some romance in them, but that wasn't the main focus, and so I wouldn't group them in the romance category. Then I read 4 nonfiction books, and then all of those were adult books, and then I read 6 middle grade or children's books. So one thing I always forget to do, because I always kind of think, well, who am I to, judge a book? But I was just watching Chloe from Always Booked, her wrap up, and she talked about how her star ratings. And I know a lot of booktubers do that, and I thought, why not? I'll just go through and add up my star ratings. Now, I'm kind of generous with my 5 stars. If I had a good emotional response to a book, whether it was perfect or not, I will rate it 5 stars. So of my 35 books, I rated 8 of them 5 stars. I rated 15 of them 4 stars. I rated 10 of them 3 stars. And I rated 1 2-star and 1 1-star. And in case you're curious about what those are, they were both by the same author, and I think I'm pretty much done with that author. So I'll get to that in a little while. So since the most of what I read were romances, I will save those for the bulk of the video. And let me go ahead and just run through the others. I need to look and see, let me find my Kindle, which books, I'm trying to remember now. Let me pause it for a second. I need to see which of the books I finished since I did a Friday Reads, so that I can remember to tell you a little bit about those books. Other than that, all of the books that I read during the month, I did weekly wrap-ups, and so I don't need to tell you about those. Give me one quick second. Okay, I'm back. So I think what I'm going to do is just run through everything that I finished and do it, group it by genre and category. And when I get to something that I finished in the last few days of the month, I will try to talk about it a little bit more. Some of what I finished up on the last day are nonfiction, and since I'm going to talk about those when I do my TBR jar wrap-up, I won't spend a lot of time with those either. So the middle grade books that I finished one of the Series of Unfortunate Events, The Carnivorous Carnival by Lemony Snicket. This was the second one I listened to on audio. Up to the month prior, I've been reading them in print, and I retained the first one that I listened to on audio, which was the one right before this, Hostile Hospital. But this one, I think I was just rushing through it to try to get to my romances that I didn't really retain it. So I'm either going to have to listen to it again, or I think I might just sit back down with it at some point. But I'm just trying to read one a month to get through with the series, and I don't know. I can't decide what to do. I might still listen to this again before I move on to the next one, and I want to read these in print. So maybe I'll just sit down and read this. But I've got so much stuff to read this month. Anyway, okay. So middle grade, I read or listened to 2 books that were Sunshine State books, and I will be doing a wrap up of these hopefully very soon. I've just got 3 left to read. I listened to The Bridge Home by Padma Venkatraman. And this was a tough one. It was about some kids, I believe in India, who were homeless and living under a bridge. Then this one was fantastic. The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise by Dan Gemeinhart. This was so good. Just fantastic. I loved it, and I would highly recommend it. It's about a girl and her dad, and 5 years prior, the rest of their family were killed, I think, in an auto accident. She had some sisters and a mom, and so it's just the 2 of them now, and her dad just doesn't want to be anywhere near home. It reminds him too much. So they bought an old school bus and they just travel across the country. And then something happens in her hometown that she needs to get back for. And so she has to kind of trick her dad into heading back towards home. And they pick up people along the way who need help. And it's just great. I loved it so much. Okay, then I said I read 6 middle grade or children's books. So I'm trying to think what the other 3 were. Well, one of them is a reread of Dicey's Song by Cynthia Voigt, and I listened to the first book in this series the month prior and loved it again, and I love this one again. And the third one I had hoped to get to, but this one and the third one are on Scribd. And so after I listened to this one, then of course the third one became unavailable until this month. So I'm going to try to get to it. There's 7 books in that series, and our library doesn't even have a couple of them. So I'm going to have to go on Amazon and try to get the books, or maybe see if they'll do interlibrary loan or something like that. Then another one was a children's book. This is nonfiction. It's called Fry Bread by Kevin Maillard, and this was so good. This is just it's kind of a poetry sort of, but beautiful illustrations. And then in the back, in the notes, the author sort of expands on each section and talks about why each section is there, kind of explains it a little bit more. But it basically just uses Fry Bread to talk about Native American culture, and it represents all the different tribes, at least in the U.S. and maybe North America. They're all listed here in the end papers, and it's just a beautiful book. This won an award this year. It is the winner of the Robert F. Siebert Medal, which I looked up, and I discovered that is an award given to a children's book that is informational. And this is the winner for 2020. So once I get done with my Newbery project, maybe I'll go back and look up these books. I think this has been going on since early 2000s, so there's not that many of them yet. And then, let me see. I put that down over there. I'm trying to think what my other... Oh, here it is. My Newbery winner for the month, well, I did reread Dicey's Song, which is a Newbery winner, but my Newbery winner that I had never read before is Miracles on Maple Hill by Virginia Sorensen. This takes place in maple syrup country, I guess Vermont, or is it Vermont? I mean, I think they make maple syrup in other places, but anyway, I only rated this 3 stars. It was okay, but it didn't just grab me. It didn't wow me, but it was a nice story, and I did enjoy it. So I listened to it on audio. Was it on Hoopla or Scribd? I don't remember. Anyway, one or the other. And it was good. It was kind of a coming of age story about a young girl and her family growing up in maple syrup country. I think what it was is they usually spent the the summer one place and the winter another place, and I'm trying to remember which was which. I guess it was the summer they spent there, maybe with the grandparents or something. And so it's just the story of her experiences there in on Maple Hill. Okay, so let's briefly. Oh goodness, somebody is driving by. Can y'all hear that? Sometimes when people have their stereos turned up, I just want to say thanks. I've got my own radio, but thanks for sharing. Anyway, okay. I don't think I've ever actually said that, but that's my thought process. Okay, nonfiction. I've already talked about this one, The Bible Cure by Reginald Cherry. This, I think, was in my TBR jar, and I read that earlier in the month. Another one from my TBR jar that I just finished on the last day of the month, The Book of the Everglades, edited by Susan Cerulean. This was a book of essays by a lot of different authors, not just Florida writers, but just writers who care about the environment, and it was very good. I am now more interested than ever before to continue on and continue my Florida education. And the neat thing is, my husband has been a reader of Florida books for a long time because he's Florida native. We have around the corner here where you can't really see, we've got a pretty good library of Florida books, and a lot of the books that are cited here and mentioned here and quoted here are already on our shelves. So I would read a quote and it say it was from a certain book, and I would think, do we have that? And I would come and look. Yes, we have it. So I can read those books, and I'm excited about it. One nonfiction book that was not on my TBR jar, or from my TBR jar, but I bought this not too long ago at a Goodwill. I think since the Goodwills have opened back up since COVID, and I just wanted to go ahead and read it and see if it was anything that Katie might read and maybe pass it on eventually to the youth director at church. This is a book geared towards high schoolers. It's called Don't Check Your Brains at the Door by Josh McDowell and Bob Hostetler. Know What You Believe and Why. So it basically is done in kind of a short Bible study format. There's 42 short little 2 to 3 page Bible studies, and so I just read it like a devotional book. I started it near the end of July, and I doubled up on 2 or 3 days so that I could just read one each day and finish it by the last day of the month, which is what I did, and I really enjoyed it. There were some kind of workbook questions at the end of each lesson, and it really enhanced my daily devotional, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm glad that I read that. Then the other book, when I said I read 4 nonfiction, I counted Fry Bread as a nonfiction book because it is a book about Native American culture. And so it was counted in 2 different categories. Okay, so then I had 4 fiction books that I don't really consider to be romance. There was a little bit of romance in a couple of these, but that wasn't the main focus. And I would say that this first book I'm going to show you was my favorite book of the month. It's Sarah's Quilt by Nancy E. Turner. It's book 2 in the Sarah Agnes Prine trilogy. And the first book is These Is My Words, which was phenomenal. This one was fantastic. I loved it. This third book I also listened to. Both of these are on Hoopla as well as the first one. The third one I didn't love quite as much. I had just 2 little issues with it that, most of you guys would be like, oh, just get over it. So anyway, but I rated this one 4 stars and this one 5. And I love the trilogy. I would highly recommend them. They are set in what year? Oh goodness, the first book tells you what year it's anyway, it's set in Arizona territory before Arizona was a state, and they're just endearing. Sarah Agnes Prine is just a fantastic character, and these are just great books, so I would highly recommend. Okay, then one of the other books that I don't consider a romance yeah, this one's not a romance at all. This is a humorous book. And it's one of the Philip Gulley Harmony series called Life Goes On. I think I started this in July and carried it over into August and finished it. This whole series is just over the top funny and just over the top in general. So it was a lot of fun. And then I read or listened to 4 Debbie Macomber books, and most of Debbie Macomber's are romance, but this one, it did have a little bit of a steam factor in the beginning, but I wouldn't consider this book romance. This is called Changing Habits, and it's about 3 young women who decide to become nuns, Catholic nuns, and then later either leave the church or just stop being a nun and maybe stay in the church. They go different ways, different directions. And it's set, I think, in the 70s, or is it? I'm not even sure. But I think it's kind of based on some actual events, some actual things that happened in the Catholic Church back in the time when this was set. There was a lot of controversy and a lot of things, and a lot of nuns left the church at that point, or left, stopped being nuns. I don't know how to say that properly, but anyway, I think it was back when a lot of the priests were getting accused of things they shouldn't do, things like that. So it was during that time frame. I'm not exactly sure what years those were. I mean, I'm sure it's all been going on for a long time, and it probably still goes on. But, there was a time when a lot of things started coming to light. And so I think this was supposed to be based during that time period. And it was interesting. I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. And I was reading some of the reviews, and there were a couple of reviews that said it was spot on, that it really depicted the real feelings of that time frame. So that's good. I'm going to have to speed this up because my phone is running out of battery. I mean, I got to go charge it soon. Okay, so just quickly, I will run through the books that I finished, and if they were for a prompt for the summer fling, then I will tell you that. In fact, let me just kind of go through, if I can recall, how the prompts went. So for the first prompt, which was Down Home Country, I said I was going to read or listen to Ransom Canyon by Jodi Thomas. I ended up listening to 3 of the first 3 in the Ransom Canyon series, and so I was able to count one of them for my Audible Escape category challenge. Now, the first one, Ransom Canyon, is not on Audible Escape. I bought it on Audible a while back, and the second and third, and I think all the rest of them are on Audible Escape. I also listened to a prequel novella called Winter's Camp. So altogether, I listened to 4 books from that series. The first one wasn't great. It had 3 different storylines, and I liked 2 of them. One of them really bothered me. And then the next 2 I rated 5 stars. These were really good. I thoroughly enjoyed them. These got back to the Jodi Thomas that I know and love, and I really enjoyed them. The prequel novella I wasn't a big fan of either. And so then the next prompt, let me set these over here. The next prompt was Big City Life. And I said that I was stretching it when I did my TBR. I was going to count The Proposal by Laurie Wick. This is set in London, and I thought, okay, because I didn't really have anything big city, and I didn't know what else to count. I did finish this, but this just really didn't have any kind of a big city feel at all. It's historical, and it's England, but most of the action all took place on a couple of different estates. So it just really wouldn't count for that prompt. So I said then that I would move my book by an author of color to the big city prompt, and I didn't finish it. I only got about a third of it read. So whether I did finish the original book for that prompt, but it wasn't really big city. So then I did finish a book by an author of color, and I don't have a physical copy of it. It's on the Audible Escape package. It's called Mystic Lake, and I've talked about it before. It's by Regina Hart. It was okay, but it's pretty steamy. So not really my type of book, but I wanted to at least finish something by an author of color. And I'm just looking to see if I got the name right. I never can remember if it's Mystic Park or Mystic Lake. Oh, did I say Mystic Lake? I wrote down Mystic Park. It's one or the other. I think Mystic Park is probably right because that's what I wrote down. So then that was the third prompt. The fourth prompt was hot and spicy. So for that, I listened to The Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I knew based on the second book that it was probably going to be pretty spicy, and it was. But at least that one was an enjoyable story. This one was just about war and politics and sex. That's really what I got out of it. And because I'm a finisher and it was on RB Digital and so was this one, I went ahead and picked up the novella. It was short. I listened to it quickly. And it's a Court of Frost and Starlight. But again, the war was over. So this one was about solstice and about favorite painting again and more sex. That's what this was about. And these are YA books. They just shouldn't be marketed to teens. But I've already talked about that. So I'm not going to go into that anymore. And I'm probably not going to... I think there's going to be more books in that series. And I think I'm done with that. I've caught up now with what's out there. And I think that's enough. So then I mentioned that I did listen to 4 total Debbie Macomber books. And wait, I'm getting off on a tangent. I was going through the prompts in my head. And now I'm looking at my box thinking I'm going to show you the next book. So wait, let me just go in the order of prompts. The next prompt was on the second line, Dark and Dangerous. So I did finish one that I would consider dark and dangerous. And it is not the one that I originally said. The one I originally said I was going to read for Dark and Dangerous because it's the Lunar Chronicles, so you don't get much more darker and dangerous than the moon. I was going to count Scarlet, which I barely got into. But this one, Bound by Duty by Valerie Hansen, I listened to on audio. This can count as my category romance and also Dark and Dangerous. So yeah, I listened to this. I was so excited. I found these on Hoopla on audio. I think the whole series, and that's awesome. So going across then, Down Home Country. Glory is going to really count for... oh no, I already did Down Home Country. Sweet and Clean. So Glory was going to be my Sweet and Clean, but I listened to 2 books on Audible Escape that are very sweet, very clean. They're part of the Uncharted series by Keely Brooke Keith. And I listened to books 2 and 3. And I can't show you the cover, but it's really just like a woman in kind of a... Book 2 is a woman in sort of a lacy dress. And it's called Uncharted Redemption. And then the other one also just has a woman kind of in a more of a prairie kind of dress. And it's called Uncharted Inheritance. So those were not very long, and I will definitely read more of that series. The next book is called Christmas with the Colburns, so it's a Christmas book, so I'll save it probably for December. But those are on the Audible Escape package. And very clean, very sweet. It's sort of a futuristic book, but it's set in this land that is uncharted. These people they're kind of a cross between Amish and Quakers, and they just want to live in peace, and they want to live without any technology, and they are very kind of Puritan-like, very old-fashioned values, and Christian, and I enjoy that a lot. Okay, then so that'll work for Sweet and Clean. Then the next prompt was Road Trip, which I did not get read. I am still gonna read Boop and Eve's Road Trip by Mary Helen Sheriff. And then the next one was Friends to Lovers. This, we counted for Friends to Lovers. I buddy read a couple of books. Oh, I put them over here. Hold on. I buddy read a couple of books from the Tyler series with Mandy Garrett, and we are counting Sunshine by Pat Warren as our Friends to Lovers. Is kind of a stretch to call it Friends to Lovers because the couple had dated a long time prior, and then because of the situation, were not really interested in dating. Well, she wasn't really interested in dating, and they became friends, and they kind of helped each other out with some things, and then eventually, became lovers. So, anyway, it's kind of a stretch, but it works. And then for diversity, we read Arrow Point. This one had a Native American theme about the Winnebago tribe in Wisconsin, and because that's where Tyler is. Tyler is a fictitious town in Wisconsin, and supposedly this fictitious town is founded on ancient Winnebago land. So there are still Winnebago people from the Winnebago tribe in the area, and one of the patriarchs of the tribe believes that there's a burial ground that is about to be desecrated by some construction. So that sort of sets the tone for that book. Then, so I have my box over here is like packed. So if I pull something out, I can't get it back in. What's the next one then? I've got 3 prompts left. The next one was it old school historical? I feel like I'm missing something. I'm skipping something. Oh, disability rep. So I actually finished 2 books that I think I could count for disability rep. This one I started in July and carried over, but this has to do with social anxiety. One of the main characters in this is Beach House for Rent by Mary Alice Monroe. It's the 4th book in the Beach House series, and the main character, one of the main characters in this book, is almost borderline agoraphobic and has a lot of social anxiety. So I think this can count for disability rep because Sarah said that it could be physical or mental, I guess, right? Yeah. Is that the right word? I don't know. Anyway, then the other book that I listen to in my car all throughout the month is The Lost and Found Bookshop by Susan Wiggs. And one of the characters here is suffering from some memory loss and dementia, so I think I can count that for this. Incidentally, as I was just finishing this up, I learned about Sarah and Chloe and Bree's new Sisters book club. I think it's called Sisters of the Heart book club. And this is the first book that they're reading. So I'm excited that I'm ahead of the game. I've already read the book. And I will tell you, in my own opinion, if you've read any other Susan Wiggs books, this is maybe not my favorite, but it's definitely better than a couple of ones that I've read. In fact, in the same series, it says that this is book 3 in the Bella Vista Chronicles. The first book in the Bella Vista Chronicles was The Apple Orchard. And Chloe and I actually read that at the same time. I think Sarah and I and Chloe did kind of a buddy read of that, and a couple other people joined in a couple of years ago, and we did not really care for it. But this one, I think, is much better. Much, much better. It does have some foul language. It doesn't really have any steamy content until right at the end, and it's kind of glossed over. It's not incredibly graphic, but there is some foul language. So just so you know, going in. But the story is great. The characters are really likable, and it's just interesting all the way through. And I did really enjoy the book overall. And so then the last 2 prompts I kind of already mentioned. One was old school historical. Well, I mentioned the last one. I didn't mention this one. I did not get this one started. I was going to read a Grace Vixen Hill book, A Girl to Come Home To. So I will still read that. I'm going to read that before the end of the year if it kills me. So then the last one was the category romance, and I already mentioned that. So then that was the prompts. So I pretty much covered everything but maybe 2 of them, and so I'll consider that a win, even though I'm still going to go ahead and continue right on and finish all the books that I said I was going to read. I'm just going to finish them up this month in September. So then a few other books that I read during the month that didn't really count for any prompts but were romances. This one has been hanging on my Audible Escape library. I've had it in my library for I don't know how long, a couple of years at least. I think I first heard Sarah talking about it, and I didn't love this one. It's by Robin Carr, What We Find. It's book 1 in the Sullivan's Crossing series. I think I like the setting as much as anything. The characters were entertaining, and it was kind of funny because the main love interest, he said it was Cal, and she kept asking him what it was short for, and she kept guessing all these different things that Cal stood for, and some of them were just so outlandish. That was actually pretty entertaining. Anyway, my battery's running out, and I'm going to have to wrap this up. Just a couple of the other Debbie Macomber books. I read A Little Bit Country, and then a couple of others that I don't have physical copies of. I think The Bachelor Prince and something else. Rainy Day Kisses. Those were both good. And then I also listened to Just Listen by Sarah Dessen. And I listened to a Jeanette Oak book. It's book 6 in the Canadian, not Canadian. Yes, no. What is the series name? Oh my goodness, I can't even say it. Canadian West series. And this is just an abridged version. I'm going to have to get the whole book and read it. It's called When Tomorrow Comes. I think that's about everything now that I read. So at least that's everything in the box. There may have been one or two others that I don't have a physical copy of, and I'll just have to skip it. So that's all for this video. I hope you are having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.